Good morning. Happy
Good
Monday
morning.
and welcome to welcome to Splintered Grace. My name is Bonnie Violet and I'm so glad that you made it with us this morning. And this is my co-host.
Hi, it's Tina Frank. Happy Monday to you also. Um, hey, we just thought we wanted to get started right away here. We had some great discussion last week about an invitation, receiving that invitation that we want to be invited to the table. And our whole analogy here has been that we've come to the table because we want to do life together. And so, right now we just want to kind of talk to you about what are we bringing to the table? What kind of a potluck? Because we're all bringing something different to the table, and it's going to be something that we want to share and all of us to be able to taste and enjoy together. So I think, Bonnie Violet, you're going to start us off with some of your things that you're bringing for potluck.
All right, sounds good. Thanks so much. I know I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this. So, and I think that's some of like for me, like that was some of the preparation is like kind of coaching myself and reminding myself
Yeah.
that one, I'm invited, and two, kind of like my goal is to bring all of who I am. And so I think part of that for me is kind of setting myself up. Sometimes I have to set myself up um, to follow through with something that I've committed to do.
What do you mean by set yourself up?
So let's just say, for instance, I'm going to Phoenix, Arizona, and
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
staying with, like I'm going to see my aunt, and a lot of my bringing to me like parts of myself is really has a lot to do with my aesthetic. So I think bringing clothes and things that I guess are indicators of who I am now versus who I was, and maybe only bringing that stuff. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
like it's all I have to wear. So I have no choice to be a bearded lady today and put on my sundress and go to church.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna have those thoughts in my head of feeling like, oh my, like, girl, is this really what you want to do? Blah, 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 blah. Hey, Chantel, should I do this? Blah, 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 blah. And if I can just kind of set myself up to, I guess, to move forward, then I have no other choice but to kind of bring that with me.
How do you think that's like a necessary step to make sure you're setting up for that?
I think for me a lot, and I don't know if that has to do, I'm a very emotional person,
Mm.
and I can get, one of the things that I'm noticing is that my thought pattern can really affect my emotions. So
Ah,
I
I get
I can
that.
be really happy and really excited about something, and then I can start to be nervous or whatever. And if I keep going in that kind of thought pattern, then my feelings change. And then once my feelings change, it's hard for me to continue moving.
Yeah.
So if I'm kind of already made commitments, so I think that's the other thing for me too, because even if I'm not thinking about this in the sense of like I'm going to have a conversation at a table, for me, even with my work life, I kind of I'm good about usually showing up when I say I'm going to show up. So
Ah,
part of that
yeah.
for me is making a commitment, like I'm going to go live every Monday, or I'm going to do this thing once a week, or those sorts of things set me up so that regardless of how I feel, I'm going to show up anyway because I committed
Yeah.
that. So I think for me, that's something that I've noticed about myself is that I can sometimes take myself out of that space of courage,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
really like, stepping through and kind of just get all frazzled. And so I try to set myself up to where um, I can't. And I remind myself that I felt different about this and I made a decision to do this. And who cares if it doesn't feel good at the moment? You know
Oh,
what I mean? Like,
yeah. Yeah.
because that's, I mean, to some degree, that's what I've been my whole life. I've been chasing that feel good feeling and been unwilling to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's
You
like,
know what? What about those folks who don't know exactly who they are yet? Or I even still struggle with that sometimes. Who am I? How do you set for that? Do you set based on where you are in the moment? Based on where you think you
mm.
want to be? What does that setup look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of strategies. One, I mean, I think you bring what you have, like, so you bring what you know that you have and that you feel really comfortable with. can be
Mhm.
one thing. It's like you don't have to bring everything to the table the first day.
Well,
You know
that's
what I
true.
mean?
That's true. Yeah.
Like it could be just like, I'm just gonna bring I don't know, I'm just gonna bring the mac and cheese for for this meal. And I'm gonna leave the I don't know the I don't know the I don't know the whatever I decide not to bring. I was like, nothing's coming to mind. Like the mashed
Yeah.
potatoes. Let's say I
Yeah.
decide to leave the mashed potatoes at home because they're too controversial, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, or I'm not ready for that. But I think also, I think another strategy I think could be to act as if. So
Yeah.
I think sometimes that's a really powerful strategy to be like, okay, well, if I was fully realized, or I was a little bit further along than maybe the way I feel I am right now, how would I act, or how would I show up? And is this an
Gotcha.
opportunity for me to an opportunity for me to really step into that? Yeah, which
Now, I mean, that's a great point. Is there a difference? I mean, when you're coming into a space where you don't know what to expect versus a space that you kind of have a familiarity with, so that setup, from what I'm hearing, would be a little different then, right?
well, yeah, I mean, I think it's to act as if or decide to leave something back, I think is a little bit different. Because I think if I'm not acting as if, that means I'm just going to bring what I know that I feel comfortable at. Like I've cooked
Mm,
mac and cheese so many times, so I know how to make it well. So I'm going to bring
right.
that because it's good and I can feel confident in that. Whereas I might, hold off on the mashed potatoes because for whatever reason I'm not good at mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and then, or I could just, I could bring the mashed potatoes and act as if I really love them and not really care what
How they, how
people
they,
think about it,
yeah. Yeah.
because
That's cool.
eventually I'm going to make good mashed potatoes. I don't know.
Right. Right. The next meal we have, these are going to be perfected. And so you don't have to worry about it. So I totally get that.
Right.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Good analogy with the mac and cheese and the potatoes.
And the potatoes, I know, I was like, am I going to keep going with this or not?
Yeah, we have a rule at our house that we can't have guests at our house with a recipe that we haven't already tried.
Oh,
So as far as food goes, because we've had a few of those not so good experiences, and I'm sure
uh-huh.
people had to go to Burger King after they left.
Right,
So
right.
anyway, so I totally get that analogy. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I think part of that idea is like, I need to come prepared to eat, maybe eat somebody else's food.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
So what does that look like? I mean, you're setting yourself up to come to the table,
mhm.
maybe knowing or maybe not even knowing, and trying to determine what that looks like for you. But how do you set yourself up for whatever they're bringing? Because that may not be as appetizing for you either.
Yeah.
Yeah. I may bring a plate of liver and onions.
Right. Right. Well, and I think part of that too is just, I think for me, it's also like thinking like, oh God, every time I go to the table, there's always this food and I hate this and I don't like
Mhm.
that. And this is okay. And so I think part of that is just being open to the possibility that I could have a different experience
Yeah.
um, than what I've always had. Like maybe people are going to be more okay with me than I thought. Maybe people actually know a lot more about me than I thought.
Yeah.
You know, maybe there's something, and maybe there's actually like just something I haven't even thought of that could be brought to the table that I didn't even allow myself to think about or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
So I think just being open to the idea that something different might happen. But I think there's also has to be kind of a willingness to try to try
Yeah.
that to try what's brought to the table,
Yeah.
and to at least taste it. And maybe you don't like it and you and you can say that, or you can just choose not to put it on your plate the next time.
Right. Right. Right.
um
And I
and
love that you said the next time, because that to me, it says that you set yourself up to come to the table more than one time. That you've
definitely.
decided that you're going to continue coming to the table and be open to trying new things and trying maybe some of the same old things with a new perspective. So that's
Right.
awesome.
Yeah. I think the other thing that one of the things that came up when you were just talking was like this idea of like being able to go to the table another time. I think sometimes like, is this the right table to bring this to?
Oh,
So
that's good. Yeah.
I think sometimes I often like part of my challenge is that there could be things I've wanted to bring to the table already, and probably more appropriate times in which it would be okay to kind of have a me conversation or a me and you conversation that's a little bit more personal, rather than like, for me, sometimes I'll find myself, invited to a situation in which like somebody died or somebody was born, or like in a situation in which it's not appropriate for me to, I guess, make it about me. If even just for a moment. So I think part of that is really just kind of understanding what meal you're showing up for, and is this an appropriate time to have this conversation? Can I choose to not talk about this particular thing because it's not appropriate for whatever reason?
Or even present yourself in a certain way. I think that has a lot to do with it too. I know I too have to make sure that I'm presenting myself in ways that are appropriate for the conversation or the space that I'm invited to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get that. That's great.
A quick sound check. Can you hear a vacuum or something?
I can, but
okay, let me just.
That's not horrible.
I'm gonna close my window real quick. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
I was hoping that the mic. I was hoping the mic was so good that it only worked well when you were up close to it and you couldn't hear it, but it was kind of driving me crazy too. So sorry about that.
It's all good. It's all good. And closing the window did just fine.
Awesome.
Awesome. And I didn't say anything stupid while you're gone, so don't worry.
Oh no, that was your chance. That was your chance.
I know.
Yeah.
So funny. So cool.
Yeah. So how about you? What are some of the things that you do in order to prepare to go to the table?
Well, again, it depends, just like you were talking about. It depends on the type of table that I'm being invited to. And I just always have to decide that I'm going to be flexible and that I'm going to choose to be happy or joyful, I guess is a better word, because I think sometimes we can get in situations that make us uncomfortable. We tend to regress or we tend to disengage. And when we do that, then there's no opportunity for us to experience that moment or to be open to have future moments. When I go to the table or an invitation, my hope is that I'll have more than one invitation. Now, I'd say that with caution because I don't want to go across that line and become a people pleaser and buy into what I think they're expecting of me, because like you, I want to be received for who I am. My package is a little different than yours. My dish that I bring is going to be a little different than the one that you bring. I might bring a tossed salad or a potato salad. I've been known to do that, or some sort of dessert. But when I bring and I think the persona that I give, or sometimes I think I'm invited for the purpose of conversation or for getting to know me. And sometimes I think I'm invited for different reasons, so that they can, I don't know what I want to say, getting to know me, or me taking a position of guiding the conversation, or being, I don't know if I'm articulating it right. So depending on why I come. So if I'm coming to a place where I'm not known well, I'm going to present myself different than if I'm coming to a place where I'm known well. And that's in everything that I do, in my demeanor, how I present myself and how I interact with people, how I dress, because if I'm not being brought in to be part of the spotlight or part of it, I'm certainly not going to dress in a situation where, kind of like you were talking about, you need to be conscious of if you're going to a funeral or if you're going to a wedding or, different kinds of things. I think those basic conversations that we have in day-to-day life with people, I think dictate the same kind of thing. So I just want to always be conscious of that, but I always want to make sure that what I bring is palatable to the multiple. Like if I bring a salad, I'm going to bring 10 different dressings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because people like different kinds of things. So when I walk in with a conversation, I want to make sure that I'm open to having different types of conversations and have a little bit of knowledge. And if I don't, say, I'm sorry, I don't have enough knowledge in that area to comment, but I'm happy to listen to the conversation that's happening. And I've had to do that more than once. Coming from the space that we grew up in, I think was a little bit limiting just because of where we were geographically and the life experience that we had in that little space and time in Wendell, Idaho. As I moved into Arizona, that broadened. So now my experience was different. I was understanding new things, but here's the thing: I brought in that smaller perspective, and it was a hard transition in some areas. And they weren't things that were necessarily taught to me that were hard. They were just things that they just were. That's just how it was. And so I didn't know anything different than that. So I didn't have a scope or any type of thing to gauge or let me know what was right or what's wrong. What position should I be taking or not taking? Yeah. Then as I started to affiliate with different things here in this space, some of those other things started to take shape. Well, then I had to decide, is this thing that I always thought was true, is it really true for me? Or is it something that I need to consider something different and try something new and take a few steps there even to see if that's something that's new. So for me, this is like setting up is very based on where I'm going, who I'm interacting with. And I've learned over time that the only thing I really want to leave behind is someone to think, oh, that was a good experience, that I enjoyed that time. And I feel like that person appreciated me or really cares about what's happening to me. So when I'm leaving behind, that's what I want to leave behind in any conversation I have, even if it's a table or a conversation that makes me uncomfortable or maybe even disagree with. Because I think those are just as equally as important meals to have as the other kind. They're both edifying, in my opinion.
Yeah. The other thing that I was thinking was coming up, like, we're talking about like this, like, I don't know, we're planning and we're thinking and we're preparing and we're putting so much into this like thing. And I think sometimes we also just have to be willing to show up. Like sometimes opportunities just arise and we just need to be able to just, I think, do it and kind of be afraid of being messy or, even being okay with saying, hey, you know what, like, I can't bring anything to the table today.
Yeah.
But can I come eat? Can I, I don't have any mac and cheese, my famous mac and cheese that I always bring. But could I still come and, and be a part of this or that, I think sometimes that could be really helpful for not only ourselves, but maybe even for the other people in our lives to be able to be willing to show up like that.
I think so. We were talking earlier a little bit that sometimes we show up with a plate that's different than everyone else's plate. And what does that look like for us, So when I come into a situation and I'm obviously different, how do I engage? And how do I enter that space? I think those are all things to consider. I don't want us to get too far off the mark here. We're talking about how you and I had kind of restored a broken or lost relationship based on our perceptions that we had of one another, which were uninformed. And we pulled those perceptions from the culture that we grew up in, the culture that we landed in and we're continuing to live on in, and by making assumptions about the other person. And so bringing to the point, the invitation that came and how we prepared for that invitation, I think that's kind of where we want to be, and the commitment that we've made to move forward. Now, I'm sure you and I don't see eye to eye on everything, but I think we agree that we love each other. And at the end of the day, we're going to eat together, even if it's uncomfortable. And we're going to continue to grow and learn about one another, and accept one another if we decide to not take on one another's beliefs or core values, because I think that's important.
Yeah, I agree. I think also in some situations it might be like, I'm trying to think like also like, just to be like clear, like what's a belief? Like, I don't know, I guess some of that is, yeah, it's like just kind of understanding like what's a belief and then what's just how somebody is, or, you know, like things like that. I think that just comes to mind for a moment. But also the other aspect is, I think sometimes it can take a lot of energy to show up to a table.
Oh, for sure.
And so kind of thinking about, like, I think especially if you're traveling, you know, like if you're traveling somewhere to be with family and you want to show up differently. And I know for me, sometimes I'll just click into like a default mode and then I'll forget why I was there. And then I will just like be and act the same way I always acted, which is not what my intention was for going. So I think sometimes it's helpful to not stay with like your family. Like if it's possible, can you like, do you have somewhere else you can go in between sitting at the table to kind of like get yourself together or something like that? So I know I've heard people who have like addiction in families, or when you're dealing with kind of like potentially toxic situations or situations that aren't ideal, it can sometimes wear on you, and like it can also trigger things for you that can sometimes become difficult to manage. So if you need a space to go pray or a space to go, and some of it isn't that you're going to stay at somebody's house, but maybe it is that you can go for a walk, or you meet up with somebody else who you can just kind of like, you know, unload off a little bit. Exactly. So that you kind of have the endurance and the stamina to like continue through whatever that interaction might become.
You need a refresher. Yeah. Just a refreshing of who you are. You know, I don't think we realize all the time that giving, which is what we're called to do, can be exhausting. And if we're not renewing ourselves, just like you're talking about, we're going to eventually run out of things to give. Yeah. And that could be just as destructive as anything, to trying to give above your capacity to give, and then you're going to cause more hurt for yourself and for those people that you're even trying to give to. So I think that's a great reminder.
Yeah, I mean, you can't transmit something you haven't got. So like if you don't have joy, if you don't have love, if you don't have belief or hope for change or difference, or, you know, that sort of stuff, you can't really transmit.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. So how do we find those things? I mean, those I guess are the questions that we always have to ask ourselves. How do we walk in that and find those things? Because I think some of those things are continual motion. You know, joy is continual motion, paralleled with choice. Same thing with love, continual motion, paralleled with choice.
I think the thing that's been helpful for me is to realize that there's an and, like that, like to try to hold more than one thing at a time, and maybe even one truth. So maybe I don't like this thing, or this thing makes me feel this way, but that doesn't mean that I can't feel joy over here, or I can't be happy about this interaction here, and that sort of thing. So I think for me, that's been helpful, is to not let like one experience kind of affect everything else, and to just be able to, you know, it might be okay for me to be mad and sad and angry about this particular thing, but it doesn't need to get in the way of my ability to be kind to other people in my life or to myself. So I think that for me has been kind of like to not have such a binary idea of things, that things are
Gotcha.
so black and white, that there
Mhm.
might be a third thing going on, and that multiple truths can be existing at the same time, I guess. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, wait, I mean, we all have multiple things happening all the time. I mean, you don't have just one person in your life, you
Yeah.
know? So you gotta be able to, I don't know, discern each one of those interactions with each one of those people. And what makes it even harder is if those people don't like each other.
Yeah.
That can be challenging. That can be challenging.
Yeah. I mean, I think I have had times in my life though when I've been more single oriented. I've only
Mm,
been able to kind of focus on one thing or one situation at a time and not have multiple relationships happening or multiple things happening at the same time, and which just makes everything a lot more I think it just puts more pressure on that particular relationship too,
I agree. I
um,
agree.
which eventually causes it, I think, to crumble,
Crumble, yeah.
and then you're left by
It's
yourself, right?
nothing. Yeah.
Exactly, with nothing. And so I'm learning that more and more, um, every day, and it's like my desire. Sometimes I feel like um, I need some people to be a certain way in my life.
Mm,
Um, and it's not, I need to let go of that need and understand that it could be a desire. Um, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
cause it's not a need. Um,
Right.
it's not a need. And actually there might even be something better,
Yeah.
um, than what
I
it
think
is I think I need.
yeah, I think that's an important message. The things that we think we need that we don't necessarily need,
Yeah.
and understanding the difference between the two.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's good. I've realized that through my relationship with Jesus, it gives me a broader capacity to hold those relationships and to
Hmm.
hold those opportunities to connect and those invitations to those tables that I wouldn't normally be invited to.
Yeah.
If I can ground myself there, and a lot of times if I need to step back and even just go to the restroom for a minute, sometimes I can just refocus and come out and be, um, I don't know if the honoring or loving to the person, no matter what the situation is, and I'm able to manage that better. I've realized that I'm never really alone as long as I'm leaning on who Jesus is and who He is in my life.
Mhm.
And for me, that has been the point that has given me the opportunity to come to the table. That's given me the opportunity to connect with people that I never would have been able or have been able to connect before. It's given me the opportunity to break out of that mold that I've been put into as a Christian, and especially a mature Christian. So, you know, that for me has really just given me freedom. I don't know
Mhm.
how else to describe it. To a point where I don't know. I'm able to eat some liver sometimes and not gag, and
Yep.
that's an accomplishment.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Mm.
even smelling it sometimes makes me want to gag. But
Mm.
but to be able to respond always in a loving and kind way, and it's just been it's not my norm. It's not been my life until recently, and I'm so grateful for it.
Mm.
And once I was able to understand the difference between my desires and what I need and walk in the need, and it's different because it feels weird, and those desires sometimes, um, I don't know, if you walk outside of what you're desiring, it feels uncomfortable because you
Mhm.
think you don't desire what you're doing. But at the end of the day, you're like, "Oh, now I get it." And you can really tap into what that looks like.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I think that's for me a lot of where like spirituality comes into play for me, is that, I guess it's something like I feel like people are like, I love people and like I don't know that I could really do life without people.
Yeah,
But also
me either.
people are like the hardest thing to deal with. Like,
You're right.
so
You're right.
having
Ourselves included.
no, totally. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm a person too.
yeah.
um, yeah, but like, and then, but I think also with like, for me, like the God concept or spirituality is like, sometimes I have to also like, the one thing that's been helpful is that I do believe that my God, from my point of view, changes in a way to meet my understanding and my need, in a way in which I think people are not able to. And I know that my perception of God is because of my limited understanding, not because God isn't already, everything. Um, so, so I think for me, that's a helpful thing to to be able to have a belief, but also not always experience that, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It's just helpful to have that because I feel like I can work to change my understanding of God, which allows God to be more useful to me. And I think in doing that in a spiritual way, I can also do that with people. That I can address, I kind of show up with people with that understanding too, that there is a better higher self than maybe I'm seeing within them at this time in this moment or whatever.
Well, God definitely wants to engage with you and meet all of your needs. He definitely wants to be a part of every part of you, and every I don't know growth we go through, every understanding that we receive. He wants to be part of all that. And I think you're right. It's important that when we look at people, that we look at them not just from the situation that they're in, no matter if we agree with it or not, but we need to look at people's potential. I mean, think about it. If we just look at people in the middle of their circumstances, because sometimes I have way more negative circumstances than positive circumstances. And if I want people to look at me to see the potential that I have in me, okay, this is a mess right now that I'm in. But if you can just see me just a little bit outside of this mess, that's what I would want people to see. And so I want to try to see people's potential. And I find a lot of times that people don't understand sometimes their own potential. So if we can look and just start to see, okay, this person is in the middle of this crazy. If I agree with it or not agree with it doesn't matter. But what's some amazing things about this person that I can start to reiterate to them that they do have something more to offer, that they do have something more within themselves, and give me also an opportunity to realize some potential in each one of these people. And that I find is it helps me a lot. And I find that in most instances, it helps the person that I'm talking to as well.
Yeah. I'm thinking the other thing that like, cause I feel like we're very much like, we've been talking a lot about kind of like ourselves in the sense of like what we can bring to the table and maybe what we can expect or not expect. But I think also like being able to show up like with a attitude of service, like how can I be of service in this moment? How can I be in service to the people that I'm in conversation with, not in a way to change them, but just in a way to show up, and be of service, whether that's, sometimes that's just helping with clearing the table and doing the dishes, so to speak. And,
Yep. Or refilling the glass waters and getting everyone a fresh beverage. Yeah.
exactly. So I think that's the other aspect too, is not having to like show up and share my dish with everyone, and I want to hear everybody say how great it was, and if it doesn't get announced from the head of the table, then I'm upset, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Just kind of being willing, like, okay, I brought my mac and cheese. All right, I'm gonna help with the dishes, and I'm just gonna be here.
Oh, that's key right there. Just be here.
Right.
And you kind of touched on that before, just being able to show up. But think about it. How important is showing up? In today's society, maybe this is just me having a rant moment, but I hate when I'm trying to have a conversation with someone and they're texting someone else. I hate that. I feel like, why are you even sitting here with me if you're not even going to engage with me or have a conversation with me that's not distracted by something else?
Mhm.
I mean, I get it if your kids are with you and you have to take care of your kids, but if you and I are sitting at the table and you've got your text message going on, or you're looking at your Facebook, or you're doing whatever, man, you're not showing up for me. I'd rather excuse myself and let you have your time back.
Yeah, well, and I'm part of it is like do it like if you like part of it is you want to like not be rude like
Right?
to the people that you're in conversation with, but I'm all like do yourself a favor and like show up. Like that's better for you too, you know?
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
I'm part of some of these groups for like recovery
Mhm.
and I like to go to them on a regular basis. It helps kind of recalibrate me and remind me of my purpose and keep me in a good headspace. And lately I haven't been feeling like because everything's virtual now and like
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
I sometimes don't want to be seen or maybe I have other things going on, which is like crazy. But you know, I do best when I like show up to the Zoom meeting.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
turn on my camera. I turn on my camera. I sit in front of the camera and I'm present. I'm not, at least for me, I feel like I get more out of it when I can do that rather than when I
Absolutely.
just have the camera off and it's kind of in the background and I'm doing my own thing. And so,
Mhm.
I mean, I think you're going to get what you, comment.
Oh, okay.
All right. Do you want to read it?
Sure. Um, oh, hi, Christine. Tina Frank, I'm so thankful for the way you're able to be rooted in Christ during conversation and model that love. Hard conversations and coming to the table for relationship definitely takes looking up to God and seeing the bigger picture. I love the reminder discussed of having an outside space of peace we need to be poured into before we pour out. Show up, take the step to be vulnerable, and be receptive of other person's vulnerability as well. Yeah.
Mhm.
Amen to that, Christine. Yeah, that's the desire of our hearts.
Yeah.
It's the desire of our hearts. And I'm hoping that our conversations are helping you guys to open up to one another a little bit and work through some of the barriers. Um, my life has been enriched because of my relationship with Bonnie, and I'm hoping that she's had the same experience.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I can't imagine going through life without you
Yeah, yeah,
anymore. Like it's just such a I don't know, it's just such a powerful relationship in my life. And I'm so grateful to have it. And it's also helping me be in better relationship with other people too, you know? Um,
praise God. Same thing with me. It's given me a whole different understanding. It's like, I don't know, some of you folks that are in my category. We might remember Jabez, the prayer of Jabez. It was a big thing in the church for a while back, and a part of that prayer, and it's in Chronicles, was to ask God to expand your borders. And I think my relationship with you has expanded my borders in ways I never thought possible. The desire of my heart is to expand and expand in all the things that we're talking about: love,
mhm.
kindness, coming to the table, even if it's uncomfortable, and being able to be a part of a conversation that maybe I wouldn't have been able to have at a different time in my life. And
Yeah,
if we can just keep expanding our borders and allowing God or love to show up, I think we could really make a difference, not just for ourselves, but for the people that we are engaging with.
yeah,
And that's why it's important that we show up, be it
definitely.
on Zoom or face to face.
Yeah. I mean,
And who knows what's going to be in the long run, but
yeah, I mean, the other part for me, it's like, what else are we here
here
for then?
for. Yeah,
You
I agree
know,
with you.
like, what
I
else are
agree
we
with
here
you.
for than to find ways to be in better relationship with ourselves and the people in the world, like just even as a whole, I
Yeah.
think our relationship, I was just trying to think about, like how our relationship has played into even just, there's been a lot of things happening in the world that could really potentially cause wedges
Yeah.
between us. And I felt like maybe like even if I don't think that we've always had the direct conversations, but I do think that I've brought you into, or my perception of you into some of those conversations. I've thought twice about like the other side, I guess, even though there's not more than one side, but the world likes to say either you wear a mask or you don't wear a mask. You vote for Trump or you vote for Biden. You are a racist or you're not a racist. You are like whatever the kind of like binary kind of ways is. I mean, I've always known that. I've always felt like not everything's that black and white, and I think I'm understanding more and more that everything's not that black and white, probably even for everybody.
It's true. There's a lot of gray areas around all those things, and we just need to be willing to skirt out into those gray areas to gain understanding.
Well, I think it's helpful, like if for me just to think that there's only two answers. For instance, like even if we just look at the election recently, if I could only feel good about one of the results or only have faith about one of the results, and that, like, I mean, it's just like in some ways, like the election is so close. It's like, okay, so if you think like the other side is the devil or is evil, then you can even look at our elections just and you look, okay, oh, so it's about half the world is evil, or half the US is evil and half the US is good, decent, good people, right? And that's just like, I know that there's a lot more good. And I want to believe it, and I experience a lot more good in the world than I do like the evil. So I think would be helpful for us to be able to like come to understand why somebody might pick one side or the other, so to speak. Partially we're set up we're set up to be that way, whether we want to be or not.
Yeah, you're right. And in these situations, once the decision's made, okay, the decision's made. We all need to move forward, embrace that decision, and do the best we can, if we like it or not.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's expansion of our borders, when we get so mindset in one area, that's where hate comes in. That's where we lose sight of kindness. That's where we become so self-centered that we can't think outside of whatever's going to benefit me personally. And man, I don't want to ever be that person. I don't ever want to be that person. I want to be able to roll with the punches, vote, exercise my rights, but at the end of the day,
right.
I did everything I could, so I'm not going to, give myself a high blood pressure because of whatever. So anyway, let's change the subject. This isn't going anywhere.
We're not going anywhere, just in the conversation. Yeah.
So there's going to be things we agree on, things we don't agree on, and things we just need to just let sit. But yeah, I think living in the gray area is a good way to describe what we're doing and how we're doing it.
Definitely. Yeah, I was reminded, I was talking with a friend yesterday about like just it wasn't as somebody I hadn't talked to in a while, kind of like a spiritual person, I would say, a peer. And he was reminding me of like how I've always felt like I feel called in the tween, like being in the tween. And I'm in the tween of a lot of things. And I do believe that I was created for that, and God continues to create me to be in that space. But it's a very difficult space to be in.
Can't imagine.
Just in the sense that it's difficult to be in that space and to feel grounded. It's difficult to be in that space and feel connected fully. And it's also such a blessing, like I love it, but I also can have challenges with it at times, I guess.
Yeah. I get it.
In being in that tween space.
So why do you think it's hard to be grounded in that space? Have you given that much thought? Or maybe I'm misunderstanding what you mean by grounded, but
No, I mean, I think part of it too is just like, I think part of it for me is not having such a solid, um so I guess I do have like a solid set of like beliefs and understanding and kind of like a bigger picture kind of thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
But as far as like kind of being open to like all of that stuff, um
Gotcha.
can sometimes I think get a little bit jarring. Um as in kind of like coming to understand different perspectives and different points of views and trying to hold space for all of those things. Um,
Okay.
I believe that my like understanding of God and my relationship with like myself and the world and like allows me to hold space like that. Like it makes room for all that stuff to exist.
Yeah.
Um, and to have compassion, I think, for where people are um, at that point in time. Um, but I think sometimes I can just get caught up, in some of
That
that
makes
and kind
sense.
of lose my own footing
Yeah.
when I'm coming to know more about some things. And so just kind of being able to come back to that center um, space.
Mhm.
So I think that there are some more probably personal practices I could be doing to kind of um, foster and facilitate that a little bit more on my own. I think I rely
Mm.
a lot on others to kind of
Mm.
help me with that. And so it's just been trying to find that for myself, um, that discipline and um, consistency, I think,
Yeah.
with some
Mm.
things so that I can kind of be a little all over the place.
Yeah. Well, I encourage you to keep working towards that because I'm a firm believer that discipline and um, obedience and things that we know that we're supposed to be doing is
Mhm.
very important to move us forward and to help us to expand and to grow and to be as amazing as God created us to be. Because that's exactly how He created each one of us is to be amazing, amazing and unique and loved by Him in ways that we never thought possible.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I was just gonna check our time. I know. Um,
We just got a little bit of time left, about 10
I know.
minutes.
Does any of our listeners have any questions for us to kind of prompt us this morning?
Our comments, we really like
Right.
to engage if possible.
Yeah. What else are we?
Huh? Maybe it's a shorter conversation today. That's probably okay.
It could be.
So I feel good about where we're at, some of the things that we're engaging on. Um, I don't know. I'm excited to see what happens next.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I definitely am. I'm still, yeah, I'm totally excited about our conversations and kind of where they're beginning to go. And like one of the things that I've been experiencing that I think is helpful, I think, or one of the things I guess I want to bring awareness to for me is like, I feel like I'm like, this is a process for me as well. Like, I don't
Mm,
think I'm just talking about like something that happened, you
right,
know,
right,
like there are moments of talking about something that happened, but I think it's something that's happening and
right.
is continuing to happen. Um, at least that's what my experience is that, I'm coming to
Yeah.
know and understand myself. I'm coming to know and understand you um,
Mhm.
more by having these conversations. And I don't know. I know for me, like it's like almost like it's a process that we're going through.
It is. It is. And it's the same for me. And I want to be open and honest because I want to have a relationship built on truth. I want there to be an opportunity for us to share whatever's on our hearts and know that it's a safe place
Mhm.
and even if we disagree with one another. And that's
Yeah.
very important to me, especially as I get older. And I want relationships that move forward with me to be meaningful and be to be shared. But I'm not the person. that wants to just sit around and have everything easy peasy and nothing ever um, challenging, because I want to be the best person I can be. And I know that that growth only comes from being challenged and it being stretched. And like I said, my prayer was to have my borders expanded. I don't want to settle for anything less than all that I have available to me and the fullness of the potential that I have in me. And that's my prayer for you also. Because when I look at you, I see the potential of something bigger than we can even think or imagine. And so I want to encourage that in you and in everybody, actually.
Yeah.
Anyone that I can have interactions with. I was going to say, if you want to get to know Duane a little more, check out his Facebook. Go out to a Queer Chaplain. He's got some other things that he's doing that's going to give you an opportunity to get to know who he is a little better. He's been doing some walk-in talks and some other things that I think would be helpful to some of you guys and gals who are really engaged and interested in who he is and where he's going and the path that he's on. So I encourage you guys to do that. I don't have anything really like that yet. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have. Like I said, I want to be open and honest and share what I can or what you're interested in. I want to bore you with all the details.
All right. Well, thank you for saying that too. I'm starting a series where interviewing like faith leaders.
I forgot about that.
So I'm starting this Wednesday. And I'm going to be starting to do it like every Wednesday. And basically, I'm just kind of going to be interviewing different faith leaders and just kind of talk with them a little bit about a little bit of their history of where they're at, and then kind of just how they're dealing with like doing church or doing spiritual or holding community space in this time, kind of how they're navigating that. And maybe for some folks, some of the folks I'm picking are also people who are like just talking about things in a different way than I've heard before. And I'm curious to kind of hear how they've come to that and what they, I have lots of questions and lots of curiosities. So I'm excited to have an opportunity to speak a little deeper with some of these folks.
Where can we find that, Duane? Is that going to be on your Queer Chaplain space?
Yeah. So I will go live on Facebook, on my Facebook,
Okay.
as well as a Queer Chaplain Facebook or a Queer Chaplain YouTube.
Okay.
Every Wednesday at 3:33 Pacific Standard Time. And it'll be for about an hour. So you could either subscribe to a Queer Chaplain podcast. If you listen to us like on a podcast here, you could just subscribe to that podcast and you would get notified, because basically after every, like we do today, I'll upload it directly onto the podcast so people can listen to it there, or they can go to YouTube and watch it as it goes live, or even it'll just live there on a channel as well. So a Queer Chaplain is a good place to find some of the other work that I'm doing on, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook, or even just like search a Queer Chaplain and you'll find some stuff there, I guess. And awesome. if you have folks you'd like for me to interview or think they have something great to share that have a leadership and faith community, feel free to direct them to me. I'd love to do that. I'm also working on a sex and spirituality series where we'll be talking about sex and spirituality. So I'm looking for sponsors for that particular event, but that one might be done a little bit differently than some of the other stuff I've been working on.
Awesome. Sounds like you got a lot of wonderful things happening.
I think so.
Yeah. It's like you're moving and expanding. I think that's amazing.
I'm excited about it all most days.
I'm excited for you. Well, it sounds like a lot of work, but I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
It's amazing what happens when we surrender our abilities and start to just move in the potential that we have. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been nice to be able to like create some space for these sort of projects. They're helping me grow and expand my own understanding of things as well, and hopefully others along the way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'll be praying for all those endeavors.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. And we did okay. We're like almost at an hour.
That's awesome.
So next week what are we going to talk about next week? Do we need to?
I'm not sure. We'll see.
We will see. So folks can feel free to reach out to us as well. We usually work on each week what we're going to talk about. So if there's something that you'd like for us to share or talk about, please let us know. We are also considering doing, this is more of like a series. So we'll probably, this is our 9th episode. So we'll probably do 3 more episodes and then maybe take a little break. Just kind of put that out there as far as kind of what we have going on. So go ahead. And we do have a comment here. So Christine says, my son and I love your new intro outro screens and your outfit is gorgeous today, Bonnie. Thanks for sharing your perspective and these resources.
Hey, that's awesome.
Thank you so much. Those, our intros and outros are actually made. An ex-lover of mine has passed away. He was super talented. Anniversary of his death was actually last week. But he's a beautiful musician and singer and creator, and so that's his music. That's the intro and the outro, and then in my new A Queer Chaplain stuff, it's all his stuff too.
So. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. So that's cool. I learned something new today.
Yes.
Awesome.
So thank you both for joining in with us, Christine and Christine's son. Glad that you could join us today. Should we should we say goodbye?
I think it's about that time.
Do you want to take us out?
I can take us out. So, hey, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure as always. Have a fabulous week and know that we will be thinking of you and we want to be relevant for what you want to hear. So check us out.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye-bye. And it's going to be like, play that outro. Splintered Grace Podcast is brought to you by A Queer Chaplain. Follow us on all of our social medias, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at A Queer Chaplain. Listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe, comment, like, and share. Feel free to tip us at Venmo, Bonnie Violet, and support monthly on Patreon. The song is original by Steven Sandnoff, The Chasm Between Us. Rest in peace, Steven. And there we are again.